last year or so, developers have started to release software that will produce imagery based on a piece of text.
So what is it?
Developers have started to release software that will produce imagery based on a piece of text.
So what is it? Oh, someone punch him out.
The user types in a phrase, say, small dog wearing a hat sitting on a park bench, and the program will then scour the internet for imagery and come up with a completely new image based on your phrase. For example, all these images came from this exact prompt. These are completely new images drawn from the program's bank of research set and developed by the program into something not seen before. There are a number of different programs that have popped up in the last year, some free, some requiring a subscription, but all available to the average Josephine like you or me. If you're someone who gets my weekly newsletter, you will have received an AI-generated image in your header a few weeks ago. Remember the fairies fighting robots? Totally fabricated by an AI image generator I was playing with that day. If you want to get into my weekly art tip letter, just click the link below and it's completely free. So as you might imagine, the ability of a computer program to make pictures has opened a huge can of worms about artistic integrity. Some artists feel threatened, some feel empowered by it. In September 2022, an artist entered a state competition with a piece of AI-generated art and won. Jason Allen, a games developer by trade, spent 80 hours creating the piece and declared that he had made it with the assistance of an AI program and, fairly in my opinion, won the $300 prize. However, the win went viral as artists protested its creation and its value within the sphere of art. So is it good enough to fool people? In this case, there was no fooling involved. Mr. Allen declared the origin of his picture. But could you create work, pass yourself off as an artist, and make money simply by putting a phrase into a computer and then pressing go? Well, yes and no. Currently the software can only handle simple things. It's easily confused, as you can see from these creepy images. Sometimes you get an extra leg, only one eye, sometimes it gets completely boggled. You often have to use an art program like Photoshop to develop the image. It rarely gives you exactly what you want. It gives you what you asked it for, on a basic level with no nuance, no emotion, and this can either be a little bit flat or, well, a little bit freaky.
Life! Life, do you hear me? Give my creation life!
There's a lot of objection to it at the moment. There are traditional artists out there who feel incredibly threatened by this technological development. They feel that if anyone can create art, then what happens to the value of their formal education and the work that they put in? They feel that the human side of art is undermined by the smushing together of a bank of images and creating something new without the aid of human input. I can understand the argument. If someone can create something in minutes, what value does my blood, sweat and tears have as I spend hours in the studio? The value of something for sale is often associated with the time that it took to make it. The same argument was put forward in the 1970s when artists like Carl Andre began putting bricks on the gallery floor and calling it art. It continues now with artists like Martin Creed and Simon Starling, both Turner Prize winners. It isn't art, they say, it isn't right.
What?
I don't think you're giving us our due credit. Our scientists have done things which nobody's ever done before.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
But I think this protest about value is a bit of an oversimplification. You see, new developments in the creative world don't really devalue what has gone before. The invention of electronic music didn't kill the idea that you could grab a guitar and thrash out some tunes. I love my audiobooks when I'm walking to work, but that doesn't mean I don't pick up a new book and smell the pages and look forward to reading it in a comfy chair. CGI in films hasn't killed puppetry, far from it. New and old ideas can coexist, and there will always be those who prefer one medium over another. The question in many of these artists boils down to one thing, in my opinion. Is it cheating? Is it deception? Is it a fraud to make something in minutes that's a postmodern amalgamation of other people's property? Well, there's an argument for that, but I'll get to that later. From my perspective as a working artist, it's a tool for research, a muse, if you will. I throw ideas into it in order to see what it spits back out and then develop further ideas based on the possibilities it gives me. How is that different from going to the library, researching, say, the anatomy and the historical paintings of horses, and then going home and making my own painting? I can find a photograph of Freddie Mercury, sketch it and sell it. Does the money from that sale belong to the photographer who took the original photograph? What do you think? Let me know in the comments.
This is mine, that's mine, all this is mine. I'm claiming all of this as mine. Except for that bit. I don't want that bit.
Some say that it's a question of soul. If there is too little human input, is it art? For thousands of years, the nature of what art actually is has been debated. In 1897, Tolstoy declared that the aim of works of art is to infect people with the emotion the artist has experienced. And he had a point. Art isn't necessarily about the painting or the sculpture or the piece of music, but about the emotion the artist had inside of them and attempted to convey in order to stir more emotion in the viewer, whether that be a mirrored sentiment or one of anger or sadness or whatever. Art could be said to be about intention. If I slice a loaf of bread and see a face in the bubbles created by the yeast, is that art or is it pareidolia? It was an unintentional nuance of nature, so does the lack of human intervention devalue it as art? But on the other hand, does my laughter as I stand over the chopping board mean that I made an emotional connection to it and that makes it art? If I display the bread slice in a gallery, is it art? The Dadaists put all sorts of unusual things in galleries to make this point alone. The computer program has no intention and no emotion, so that's where the kernel of this question lies. Is it art? I could debate that with you for hours if you'd let me, which you won't. What worries many people about the creation of AI programs to make images is one of rights of ownership, censorship and safety. If work is being created for a mixture of work by other people, what if someone objects to their work being used? If someone entered a prompt that contained "in the style of Artie Mouse," would I have any legal recourse, particularly if they tried to sell it as my work? I wouldn't own it as I didn't have any part in its creation, but it is a grey area, isn't it?
Oh, what's the word, Mr. Jack? What's the word?
Okay, the word is disguise.
Disguise?
Disguise!
Well, what's a disguise?
Disguise is when you change the way something looks to make it hard to tell what it is.
Oh, a disguise!
You know what?
There's also the seedier side of this. If they can lift any image from the internet, and when you think about it, there are some dusty, creepy corners of that internet, then it could be used for some truly horrid things. The deepfakes that could be created without some regulation are staggering. The misinformation that could be spread is absolutely mind-blowing. Just think about the so-called fake news and what it's done to our general perception of what's real. It's Orwellian. What can be believed these days? Suspicion of everything is now our default setting, and this has caused immense harm so far in areas like politics, for example. But then censorship has also caused problems. In some countries where the internet is highly controlled, the images created will be entirely different from the UK. But the rights of citizens is perhaps a debate for another day. I'm sure that the argument about the validity of this new medium will roll on for years. It already has. People will always debate what they think, whether that opinion is based on knowledge, fear or love. I think it all boils down to value, and that's something that can't be quantified and is based on subjectivity. I'm wary of its implications in terms of regulation and safety.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
But I'm also really excited to use it as a tool to further my creative practice. What's important is to debate these things, to voice how you may feel about the value of, or the alternatively, the threat of computer-generated art. I'm really interested in what you think about this, whether you're a working artist, a consumer, or a computer programmer. Speak to me. Let's debate this below. Feel completely free to disagree with me. Healthy debate is what I'm looking for, so let's talk about it. And while you're at it, sign up below for the free weekly newsletter about art and head over to the Artie Mouse Etsy shop to check out some of my work.